Welcome. This is David Bowles, Human Meme. Today's topic: not homeless, but never having a home. Oh, let us pay the time but needful woe, since it hath been beforehand with our griefs. This England never did, nor never shall, lie at the proud foot of a conqueror, but when it first did help to wound itself. Now these, her princes, are coming home again, come the three corners of the world in arms, and we shall shock them, naught shall make us rue, if England to itself do rest but true. William Shakespeare, King John, Act 5, Scene 7, line 112. Well, Shakespeare still wounds us with the truth, a bare truth, a hard truth that we try to abide, a truth where we try to be sovereign, a truth that we hope to be respected and honorable, but in our moral core, we struggle with and for independence from the forces that seek to control us. And today, now, in this Human Meme podcast, as we've discussed in the past, we know that we cannot go home again. Oh, we hope to return home, but when we try, we fail, because what we left behind is not what was, but what is. And that does not include who we are now. Oh, sure, you can go back and struggle to fit in and stop remembering, but the charm of the past never quite survives its first reflection of rebuttal from the future. And then we are forced to admit, often after landing back on the staggering realm of our own 2 feet, that none of us are ever going home again. Visit? Sure. Stay? Not happening. And why that is brings us to this thought. A notion, if you will, that rings harsh and true today more than ever. We live in many places. Sometimes we live in the same place for many, many years. But now, in society, we no longer live in homes. Houses, yes, apartments, okay. Cooperatives, sure. But a home is a place where you grow up and survive to live. Well, those places don't really exist any longer. Not even for infants and children who live at home. Oh, we long for home, to go home. But that place does not exist, not even for those who never left in the first place. And I know all of this sounds odd, like I'm trying to trick you, but if you stick with me here just a little while longer, we know there are no repeats in life. There are no start-agains, no do-overs, no mulligans. We can try to restart, but there is always the residue of failure that colors every subsequent effort. So today, if you're still with me, we live in places, but no longer homes. Homes that were hand-built with heart and sweat and blood and the rubble of your life. Some of us are stuck in the past. You've met them. They live there in the past of what was, and they decorate that past, and they want to go home to a place that exists only in their mind. They go back. They try to reconnect. They visit their old elementary and high schools, searching for the key of how they fit in, wondering who they are and what they lost in the transition from childhood to adulthood. And yet, they believe they have convinced themselves that they are content and happy being back. They survive in what was. They are comforted by beginnings, and by belongings, and by being a part of something that is, in fact, dead, and that died off a long time ago. There is comfort for them in the remembering. The memory is sacred. For them, those few, there is only fear and uncertainty of now and of the future. But my human being friend, you and I, we know that life is about change. But for those of us who refuse to transform, there is only misery and misbelonging left to them as they struggle to move beyond the toys and the memories of their childhoods. And oh yes, there is always a certain comfort in knowing that predictable familiarity of recognizing the world around you. But is that a good thing? Is it a good thing if you miss the next thing because you're only looking to recognize what you already know? And today, now especially, it can be really hard to feel homeless, lost in this vast space of this world of ours. Even though you have a place to live, and it's hard because you miss the smells and the sounds of the environment that originally formed you. And sometimes, when the wind is just right, and the sun glints in your eye just right, and for a moment, you are brought home again. You are brought home again even if you are far away from everything that once was, and you feel the old sunlight upon your skin, and you recognize the old smell of smoke from a campfire just beyond the valley. And you are comforted in the now by that instant memory that strikes you from nowhere. And you momentarily suspend time, struck in confusion and disappointment, because in the recital of the past that overwhelms you, that process fails to help you remember what made you and what comforted you before the technological takeover. And yes, every human being has been taken over since the beginning of time, taken over and suspended, and had to deal with this sort of technological overrun. Technology, advancement, innovation, whatever you want to call it, change happened. And that change is inevitable. Fire and shadows on a cave wall. Mechanisms and gears. The gasoline combustion engine. The computer. And we define ourselves by how we choose to live with all of those changes. Do we advance the self? Or do we cling to the sounds and the smells of the past that linger to tempt us to stay in one place forever? And yes, in your current lifetime, you have seen entire political movements dedicated to remaining in the past, dedicated to turning back time, dedicated to shying away our eye from the new future waiting for us. Older is not always better, and newer is not always better. Sometimes staying the same while moving forward can work, but it may only work as long as we don't try to roll ourselves back in mind and foot to a time that cannot be sustained in what is always what hopes to be a more modern world. We are not homeless. but we still never really recover a home. We are the forever travelers. We are always searching for the new, even when we just want to return to the familiar. But be wary of what you hope for, because a return to then, forced, coerced, or willfully applied, always results in a loss, sometimes unidentifiable as a loss, but still there. The loss of freedom, the loss of identity, the loss of what was once considered the sacred safe harbor of a home. Thank you for listening. Be a human meme.